Swingle. Yeah, Swingle.
I got my eye shot today.
Amy, turn the lights down, Bob. You good?
No, I'm good. Actually, this one. No, they didn't die like knives. They just had to get a numbing injection of medicine. They put it.
Yeah.
So occasionally, there's some capillaries in your eye.
It's also at night.
Yeah, my doctor came back. She was on maternity leave. Let's go ahead and see her.
Glad to see that.
It was great.
I'd like to call to order. Okay.
There you go.
Now, here we go. I'd like to call to order the Pleasant Hill Recreation and Park District Board of Directors regular meeting, April 10th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Around the room, we have 4 of our 5 board members, and they, of course, have been excused absence. Is that correct?
Yes.
Director, would you like to lead us in the pledge?
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Go ahead to agenda item number 3, public comment. This item on the agenda provides an opportunity for members of the public to comment on any item within the subject matter jurisdiction of the board that is not on the agenda. There will be opportunity for the public to comment on other agenda items at the time they are discussed. Comments will be limited to 5 minutes per speaker. Michelle, do we have any commentary?
We do not.
No commentary. I'll go ahead and close public comment. Move on to agenda item 4.1, report from ex-officio council representative Lila Nico.
Lila let me know that she had ACL MCL surgery this week, and so she was not up to coming to the meeting nor providing a written report. So we wish her the best in a speedy recovery so that she can get back to school next week because they're on spring break.
Definitely speedy recovery at those takes time to deal. So wish her the best. I'm still holding off on those positive comments that I wanted to convey to her. So
She'll be here eventually.
eventually, I'll stick it in my back pocket. We'll go on to agenda item 4.2, report from the general manager.
Great, thank you, Chair Tran, members of the board. I included a written report, but I wanted to highlight a couple of things. First, this Saturday, the 12th at Rutgers Ranch Heritage Center, they're having their spring expo and plant sale. So if you have an opportunity to drop by, I know they would love to see board members. And if you're looking for any plants, they have a lot of good selection this time of year. As well as next Saturday is our Extravaganza event. It will be here at Pleasant Hill Park. There is no registration required, so it is a free event, and so I anticipate us having a large crowd for that event. So come on out and watch the kids scramble for eggs, which will be lots of fun. And then they're having a bunny hop after that. So nice little dance party bunny hop. So with DJ AJ. So that'll be fun. Just wanted to put a shout out to, I didn't make the report, but to our CIP team, Lance and his team got the community center painting finished. So it looks great. The exterior paint looks fantastic. So it looks really great. So thank you, Lance, for that. He got it done after, it was finished after the report went out. So, but it's done now. So with that, I'll take any questions.
Any questions for me?
I was wondering what the attendance was for the spring break trips.
So at the Twin Center, I think we had around 15, which is a good size because we take them on little trips around here. And around the same at Kid Stop, slightly higher though.
Thank you.
I think a lot of families take the opportunity to get out of town if they can. So.
Any other questions from the board? I just have the extravaganza. Is that by age group, or is that just a free for all?
It will be a free for all for the older age group. For like 5 and up, they'll be using the entire area and having kids go all the way around the entire field. But for those under 4, they will have the smaller area next to the senior center. So yeah, it should be super fun.
Excellent. And then just want to have a final question or maybe a comment. The laundry grants, I'm looking forward to that. How I make it. I did notice that we've had asked about coal grant. We weren't listed on any of it.
Yeah, we're still working. We're still working with them on doing that. So yeah, so it's a work in progress.
Okay. I just wanted to.
Yeah, we continually remind them of that. So, but yeah, it's a little work in progress, and they're working out the kinks on their end as far as approval of materials that go out as well.
Any public comment on your? All right, then we will close the item 4.2. We do get item 4.3. See report regarding the district financials.
Great. So I'm going to ask Chris Petlock, the Administrative Services Manager, to join me up here. I do apologize to the board. I included on the agenda just the staff report, not the staff report with the attachments. And until Chris went and looked at it this afternoon, no one made me aware of that. So Chris, I did send that out or hand that out to you as well, sent it. So Chris is going to go over the highlights. So turn it over to Chris.
Good evening, directors. So on a quarterly basis, the board reviews the quarterly financial statements. So we're halfway through the year. And so the district is on track with expected revenue and expenses. There are some highlights. Year-to-date tax revenues are about 24% higher over this time from last fiscal year. But I'd like to couch that with the county still implementing a new software system. And they've kind of changed the way that they're giving us money. It was definitely different last year, and it seems like things are rolling out different this year. I've talked to some contemporaries and other folks that rely on the county for tax collection, and they've all expressed snag with their new system. So I'm sure they're getting it together, but so we'll see how that really rolls out. We'll know in the next few weeks exactly how our secured and unsecured tax will be. So just as a reminder, many of our expenses are front loaded, like the CalPERS unfunded accrued liability and district's liability insurance lands really right in July, along with a lot of our loan payments are really early. As far as departments go, the senior center reported back that they're on track with revenue and expenses as they expected. They're still waiting for $16,000 from the city. We've since received that since Polly noted that to me. The rentals report revenue slightly up at locations and down in a few, including the senior center, which lost the annual church rental this year, but expects the year to track out overall. Athletics reported the sports revenue is up from previous year due to some prior year revenue kind of slipping into this year, but they also reported some additional highlights as far as attendance being up and price being up a little bit. And then she also noted, Victoria also noted that use of premises costs were higher just because we were being charged the wrong rate apparently. So that has changed for us probably going forward. And then of course preschool reports. Classrooms are full. I think anytime I talk to Sarah, if she just had more teachers and more classrooms, she could put more lesson seats. So that's the good news. I've also included the fund report. The total cash reserves as of December 31st were $4.5 million. And the district is in good shape to, at least at this point in the year, to achieve the goals set by the board for the fiscal year. I'm happy to go over any of these if you have any questions or concerns.
We do have in the packet that I printed for you the summary report, and it's showing that we're right at 50% for half year in both revenue and a little bit over in expenditures. But as Chris mentioned, we have a lot of large front-loaded expenses, including the district's general liability insurance payment and the PERS UAL. So those are front-loaded and get paid in July. So
I think at this time, we're probably gonna land this thing on a dime. It's gonna be close, but, as long as things work out for what folks expect, I think we'll be in good shape through the end of the year.
Open up to questions from the board. Thank you very much.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for the memo. It was exactly the kind of thing that I think the board has been looking for in terms of substance and explanation of what's going on financially and fiscally in the district. And so, it really didn't take, seeing this document here to know that we were right on target, because your memo was just so explanatory. So thank you.
Well, the staff really helped me out a lot.
Thanks, staff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll reach out to them, let them know, and encourage them to keep it coming.
The second thing, you mentioned in one comment here about allocating administrative costs differently. Through the years, that's been kind of like a rubber ball, and it's been very hard to track for the board, at least me as a board member, to track exactly what staff is doing with those numbers and where they're going, and how that factors into the 50% goals that we have here and stuff. So what exactly was reallocated or allocated?
Sure.
To?
So I think in the past, what has been done, specifically just before this, we were allocating administrative costs based on the number of employees in the department. So, for example, aquatics would be fairly heavily loaded because they had a few full-time, but a lot of part-time employees equaling to full-time equivalent employees. And so they would get a lot of cost, but maybe not really kind of get a lot of the revenue. So they really seem like they're underwater all year. The other thing that we did, yeah, exactly, pun intended, exactly. And the other thing was, for example, the unfunded accrued liability, which is just a huge liability of the district, but really has nothing to do with current operations. And so a lot of that cost has to do with people that worked here in the past and promises that the district made to other folks. And we were, again, putting that on departments based on the number of employees. Has nothing to do with that. So we've kind of selected costs that really have more to do with the costs that are really attributable to current operations, which I think is more in line with really their costs of service.
So is this reallocation, we had a reallocation 2 years ago. Is this just like, now that we have 2 years of experience with reallocation, we realize some things still need tinkering?
Yes.
I think you'll find that throughout. I think you'll find that the general manager and managers will argue about this until forever, like what belongs to me and what really belongs on what I have to charge somebody that comes in for a program, because that's kind of how that
Well, when we actually reallocated it, I mean, Chris said it was new this year, but we actually did this reallocation when we amended the budget last year, and we made that change. And so this is it's the same. We're using overall revenue instead of number of employees, because if you have an employee that works 200 hours in the summer, and we're like that, they're not using they're not costing the district as much administration as full-time employees. And so it just really was disproportionately hitting some of those programs that have a lot of employees that don't have a lot of hours. And so we looked at just the overall revenue in each of those departments, including administration, because administration was basically not getting hit with anything, and we have employees in that thing. So it was a reallocation, but we did it when we amended the budget, and so we think it's more consistent and will better show the actual cost of service.
Does that mean we don't need to go back and revisit that triangle?
No, I think we always need to revisit the triangle.
Okay, that I think was intended to sort of explain why things were appeared imbalanced.
Yes, it is. And we'll, during, budget time is kind of the time we look at that again. And so, but yeah, so I think, this is again, at budget time when we did this was an attempt to make it, more accurate, in what the cost of service was.
Thank you. It's good to hear that we're on target and like we can end the black.
The other thing I'd like to say about the it really doesn't change the bottom line. It's just saying.
No, it doesn't.
It's
It's
just,
changed the optics.
I just wanted to make sure that works. I just want to make sure that was really clear.
But see, that's important for us to be able
Yeah.
to understand that what might 2 years ago have worked different than it does today. There's a reason.
Yes, correct. Other questions from the board?
I don't have any questions. Yeah, I was wondering what the percentage increase was for the school district to go from student rate to adult rate.
Nicole.
Or
So I'm not sure I have the exact amount. My understanding was that, they've long established a differentiation between what they charge for youth and adult, and and we rent their gym space for both purposes. And I think we weren't getting assigned the correct rate for all of our hours used. And so I think that was the discrepancy there.
But we're only getting charged for the adult programs, for the adult rate, right?
Right.
So, yeah. So we're still getting charged the youth rate on the youth programs. So it's just the adult programs. So basically, the district school board has decided to subsidize the youth programs, but not the adult programs. It's kind of where that falls out. But we'll pass those increases on to the cost of the teams in the future.
I just have one question myself. In terms of just the rentals, like more or less flat.
Yeah.
Even we raised our rental rates as well too.
We did raise our rental rates, but since we book so far in advance, it's going to take close to a year for that to shake out. Because we raised them, and so we raised them last December.
Mhm.
Yeah, last December, and we were already pretty much booked for most of this year, right? So it was new rentals only, and then the rentals for next year. So we'll see a larger bump just from current use in the next year.
Other questions?
No public comment.
Any last minute comments from the board? Yeah, all right, we'll go ahead and close agenda item 4.
Thank you.
Thank you. We'll move to agenda item 5, the consent calendar. Consent calendar items are considered to be routine by the board of directors and will be acted by one motion. Unless any one member wishes to carry an item, I go ahead and entertain a motion to the consent calendar.
Move approval of the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Well, second.
We have a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? 4-0. Motion carries. Thank you. The agenda is a better way to get through all this, getting back and forth.
Okay.
All right, we move to agenda item 6.1, recommendation to approve a letter of unconditional commitment authorized by government code section 54-960.2 to cease business from and not repeat a violation of the Brown Act alleged to have occurred immediately following adjournment March 13, 2025. There's a staff report as well too, right?
There's a staff report from myself and General Counsel Osa Wolf. And you will see that staff is recommending the board confirm their unconditional commitment to the Brown Act, as we all have that, that we all want to make sure that we do that. This is an opportunity for the board to just confirm that on the record and recommend that the chair send a letter to resident Laura Powell, just confirming that. And this is the relief that is provided to us under government code to make sure that we don't have to deal with any unnecessary lawsuits in the future. And so there is no admission of wrongdoing. Staff did do an investigation. We believe that there was nothing that was in violation, but in abundance of caution, and to make sure that all of our constituents know that we are firmly in favor of making sure that we adhere to the Brown Act, and we normally make sure that we do that, and we did as well in this case. But that is the recommendation of staff.
Thank you. We'll open up to questions from the board. No questions? Any public comment on this item?
No, there's no.
Okay.
There's no public comment. I saw something pop up, but it's another. No,
Yeah, it's like another.
Yeah.
Weird pop-up.
Oh yeah, that's me. That is my using live presentation so that the timestamps happen. So you'll get that for the minutes as it moves through. So sorry that you have to click through that. But if I don't do that, then I have to go in and hand do it. So.
And we'll go ahead and bring it back to the board for any comments on this item.
Final comment? Yes. First of all, I'd like to thank the member of the public who brought this to our attention. While there may not have been a violation strictly, I think it's always good for me to be aware that the public is watching and has expectations of me as a board member. And that while this was certainly not intended at all to violate the Brown Act, there was, what came out of my mouth was certainly something that someone could have questioned. So, and that's my comment. I also wanted to apologize to you for anything that I said that has caused this to be in your administration. So I just wanted to say that as well.
Thank you for saying. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing no other comments, we'll go ahead and I'll entertain a motion for this along.
I'll go ahead and move to we approve the letter of unconditional commitment as included in our packet.
Okay. We have a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Motion carries. We are reaffirmed in our unconditional commitment. Thank you, Michelle. All right, we'll go ahead and move to agenda item 6.2, recognize Frank Winslow, the Festival and February 28, 2025, and discuss Mr. Winslow's contributions to the community, including the Pleasant Hill Recreational Park District, current condition of potential improvements and or to the district's physical center in this honor.
Yes, so this item is a follow-up from your last item. At the end of our meeting, at that meeting, since Ted Winslow had recently passed, we had ended the meeting in his honor, and a number of board members had in their comments talked about contributions that he had made. And so this is an opportunity for the board to kind of discuss if there is anything that you would like to do at this time to either honor Ted Winslow, as well as discuss any improvements to the Winslow Center. You are all well aware that, we had hoped to pass Measure S that would have given us, funding to actually do something potentially at that site. Unfortunately, we do not have that opportunity, but staff did want to get some direction from the board on two items related to this, which is included in your report. One, whether or not we should consider including repainting the building in the capital improvement program for this upcoming year. We have received many comments from members of the public, as well as preschool parents and staff who utilize that building, that it is deteriorating quickly just from the outside. The initial cost is approximately about $20,000 to $25,000 estimation based on initial bids that Lance has received. So we wanted some feedback on that, as well as the Land and Facilities Committee did review a request that staff brought to them for the for a business called the ADU Crew to rent a portion of the Winslow Center parking lot to display some ADUs for a set number of months. which would need to end in October because of our commitment to the Dolphins tree lot. That potential rental would provide some funding for us to potentially redo that particular building. It is a stark change in use for that property, which is why staff brought it to Land Facilities, and then Land Facilities asked to bring it to the board. While it would provide some funding that we don't currently have, and we wouldn't have to rely on CIP dollars to paint that building, it also is very different than recreational use for that. I will say, if the board does give staff that direction and wants to move in that direction, we would need to get a temporary use permit from the city of Pleasant Hill, because it is not a recreational use of that. So we would be doing something different. Just for context, we do that every year for the tree lot. So every year the city, we go through their temporary use permit process for the tree lot. So it would be similar. But with that, this really is just an opportunity for the board to have a conversation about the Winslow Center, and if there's anything that you would like to direct staff to either bring back to move forward with on the 2 items that I've included, or if you want to discuss any further honoring of Ted Winslow.
I just had a quick question. So, is this again just to a specific?
It is anything. Discuss the current condition of and/or potential improvements or changes to the Winslow Center, which is named in his honor. So basically, and it's a very all-encompassing, any changes, any things to that. So.
And I will probably look for any questions on any component of the.
Well, if you don't mind, I think I'd like to talk about Ted just a moment.
Yeah, that'd be good.
Yeah.
I think that was like at the top of the.
Yeah.
That is at the top of the agenda.
I want to show questions or just maybe comments on.
Well, we can make that more discussion. Yeah, well, I have questions.
Right. Oh, yeah, but this is, talking about Ted and his contributions, and as well as the board just kind of talking about, the Winslow Center in general. So
Maybe we'll do this like maybe I'll ask you, are there any public comments?
there are no public comments.
Just want to make sure that the public has an opportunity.
Yeah.
And maybe just open it up, just questions and comments.
Yeah.
How's that?
Well, I didn't know Ted well. He was long gone from the district when I started here. But his impact was legendary. Obviously, the naming of that site after him was very well deserved. But I think the thing that I want to talk about is his character. That there just was no more gentlemanly person than Ted Winslow, who got this district not only going, but growing, because I think people had such respect for him and how he managed people and the operations of the district, how he handled staff, and the public. It was just something very magic, I think, about his personality, his character, that really made this district what it is today. Because without him, I think it may have really been blind. We may be just this little parcel of land, but he made things happen.
I reread what had been put out, after Ted passed away, and again was kind of bowled over about all the different things that he did in his lifetime, not just with Pleasant Hill, but just in his life. He seemed to me like a true Renaissance man. He just was involved in so many different things. I think I believe I met him once many years ago, but after, I wish I would have had the chance to know him better, because you can see by all the words in this particular article, and then when he passed, all the comments that were made by other people, how well respected and how well thought of he really was for many, many, many years, for everything that he did for Pleasant Hill and just in his life. So I appreciate that we do have a facility named after him. And I hope that we can work towards making it something that he would agree to and be proud of in the not too distant future. But, you know, we'll see how that all works out. That's all I have right now.
Yeah, I think very rare in any community that you are lucky to have somebody that's so, admired, respected, revered, and, for the work that they do to, create a better place for, generations of residents. And, Ted Winslow was that person. And I appreciate this conversation and everything that's been said, because I think it provides us an opportunity as a board to kind of memorialize these comments for future boards to understand the importance of Ted Winslow as a person and a community member and the work that he did, to continue to honor that when the time does come. And I think that would be something that should happen. And I think that would be I think what we're all saying is that whatever may come of that site or other sites, that there be provided the opportunity to look into naming after Ted and acknowledging the work that he did for a long time.
Thank you for your comments. I just echo the comment I made back on the 13th of last month. It sort of linked closing the meeting in his honor, also with the quote of every success should be inspiration to another. We're strongest when we cheer each other on, and I sort of saw that in him. He's sort of this inspiration, but I think he would also be cheering us on as we kind of move forward. And so I would actually be in favor in some way continuing to have his name connected to that site, no matter whatever iteration that site looks like. I am a little sad that the site in its current condition is not reflective of who he is. I drive by that. It's just an eyesore, in my opinion. Before this meeting too, I actually drove over there just to see, and the paint is just coming off the sides, and it's just really eyesore. So I felt bad that his name is on that particular building, and that's the thing that the public sees. And so every time we say, let's go to Winslow Center, and you get these comments, it's all dilapidated and it's falling apart, all that type of thing. And so I wish we had funds to actually make something that's reflective of who he was as a person. We're not there. We just don't have that yet. But whatever we can do, I think, to at least spruce it up or reflect who he is a little bit better until we get to a place where we can actually do something with that. I think that's part of what we're going to discuss today. How do we continue to make it look okay, continue operating, and then get to a point in the future where we can actually make something worthy of his name. Yeah.
Well, the next part of our conversation here is just alluded to it, I think. And correct me if I'm wrong, but when you built the new community center, there was never any discussion about whether there would be a McHale room. There would be a McHale room. There just was no question about it, right? And so, from my perspective, there's no question that it would still be the Winslow something at the end of the day. That this is not something that we suddenly turn into some neutral name. It's named for a reason. As far as I'm concerned, it's permanent. Anyway, I don't know how the rest of you feel, but I wanted to share that with all of you, that I want to assure the community and his family and everything else that I will continue to respect the contributions he's made to our community through the respect that the prior board gave to him by naming that facility in his honor, and continuing that for generations, I hope, to come. I think Ted would understand if we decided that there was value in leaving the building in its current condition, if it's what we need to be able to show the community that we need the funds for the in an upcoming measure. if we're not planning to put it out again, for 2, 3 years, then I can see that. But I can also see that if we make it kind of neutral, then we've lost the impact that has in expressing our need as a district for the community to support us. So I just have some concerns about whether that's the right thing to do at this point. Maybe, and you mentioned next fiscal year, so maybe this would be a decision really not made until next year sometime, and maybe by then we will have decided to, go back to the public. But I think it stands for me emblematically of the need in the same way that the community center was called senior center. 3 shabby buildings, one was a closet like from World War II, and the teen center was a closet. We had needs and people reacted to that and supported us. So anyway, to me, it's an emblem of a need. What we do with it, maybe we can leave what we do with it for the next round of comments. Anyway, those are all.
Yeah, thank you for your comments. I just wonder if I said it out loud because I wanted to be sure that the property retains influence domain in some way. If this is sort of an open conversation, I do worry because there's lots of chatter about whether that entire area, how that's going to be redeveloped, all the property around it as well too, right? And whether there's a desire for any type of movement of the property to somewhere else in order to make room for housing, for instance. And so I think I was just expressing that in some form or another, that, whatever happens in the future, and we may not be with this board, maybe with a future board, that we retain that meaning of it in some way, shape, or form, whatever it's going to look like. I don't know what the future is going to hold. I think I made it very clear, at least in prior comments about the Winslow Center, that I think it should be and remain where it is, and then continue to be sort of a beacon within the community, a very prominent location. This name stuff comes to something that I feel that would really sort of reflect his values for the community. But I think there's steps in there that we could do to continue to honor that name. We have no money in our budget to make it a new thing in any way, shape, or form. We're nowhere near that. But I feel sad when I hear comments from preschoolers, other things, use this. I mean, if you look at this, I think there's at least some middle ground we can try to obtain. I don't think there's an argument that needs to be replaced. I mean, we tried to argue about the last measure and the prior measure before, right? And it didn't really, I don't know if it really hit. I say, oh, you got what you got. Live within your means is what the comments were, right? And so I don't think that's that, letting the building get dilapidated, just to prove a point. I don't think it lands anywhere. But what I do feel is that it doesn't reflect who he is as a person. And I just feel sad when I go by it. And I feel sad when I hear comments from people saying, we have our kids in here for whatever it is, or we have an event or whatever. And so I think there's something we could do sort of midway that tries to at least improve the building somewhat so that people can actually feel, like to go into a place that's somewhat well maintained and sort of make plans for the future, in which we all hope that we can get the funds necessary to build something much better than we have.
No, I mean, I think, to, again, memorialize the conversation, I think that we would all, I believe we all would agree that, should a new building go in that spot, I would agree that it needs to be, retain the, the naming after Ted Winslow. I would condition that on, should something go in that location that that the board doesn't feel is worthy of a Ted Winslow, that name should be provided to another building of that magnitude. I mean, I would hate for it to be a small little shed or something that, becomes the Winslow shed and not the Winslow Center. I mean, I would almost be up for renaming other facilities that we may have in the name, but I agree that it should stay there. I support painting it. I think that it has I fear that it being a big viewpoint of, people driving through that area, which is heavily traveled, that it could be perceived that, maybe the district is neglecting a site rather than the alternate of, oh, clearly they need, some resources so they can read. I think the resources that we need are to put a whole new facility there. And I don't know that people just driving by seeing an exterior of a building that may be the thought that enters their head. I think the thought that may enter their head is, well, geez, they want us to, help them out, but they're not even taking care of what they have and not fully understanding and grasping that conversation. I also, quite frankly, I'm glad that it was put in this, the information, the fact that I remember having these conversations, 6, 7, 8 years ago about the lifespan of this building, and shocked and amazed that it continues to, I think many years of drought have helped. But yeah, and I took to heart, I think we all did the and I can't remember the context of what meeting that was, but the comments by the preschool folks about, their desire to have the building painted. I thought that was, seemed to be a reasonable request based on, the use of the building and the reality that its lifespan continues somewhat of an undetermined time at this point. So, those are my comments. I'm not stoked about the idea of the ADU parking thing. I think that I did have maybe one question on that. Is this an advertising thing?
It's an advertising thing, yeah. So it's an advertising thing that they would then be able to schedule people to come look at them. It's purely an advertising thing, and so the unusual use. But we thought, because there's a revenue component, in staff I wasn't going to approve it without coming to the board. We went to the land and facilities. They found it intriguing and asked to bring it to full board, but.
Well, I definitely think since we've had this conversation at our retreat about looking, absent a funding mechanism to do the things that we want within our master plan, I appreciate the look at all, opportunities to generate revenue and to vet them out. I think just based on the limited information that's been provided, but on its face, it's not something that I'm particularly excited about exploring. But
Derek's not here to kind of give some information that maybe I can.
From the land and facilities.
Yeah, just from he's the chair, but I can definitely get that. And I think both Derek and I were on the same boat. Like, well, what do you mean? But as we kind of talked through it, and like you just said, if we're going to get creative, we have to get creative and sort of look at the different ways in which we can potentially raise revenue. We talked about it too, like sponsorships, naming rights. I don't know if this is any really different than sticking somebody's name onto a site or something, right? We have the public services room, right? And so it's advertising. Nonetheless, this is actually, we talked about it, this is temporary. So it's going to stay just for a number of months because it has to be cleared out for the Dolphins tree lot. It's a company that's in Pleasant Hill. So that would not like say another company that's it's a company that's in Pleasant Hill. They're putting up examples of ADUs. I don't know if we had asked whether or not they had any examples of the pre-made ADUs that the city.
And these are the ones that the city approved?
They're approved.
Yeah.
Yeah. So the city has been pushing ADUs as part of the housing as a way to increase housing. But their pre-approved plans are hard to visualize. Like, oh, if you do this, then you get this rapid approval process because it's one of our approved. You sort of think aloud and say, if we can be partners with the city in a way that benefits us in different things, like, the city saying, hey, if you do these type of ADUs to increase the housing lot, but if you don't know what it looks like, here's some examples of what it may look like. Go down the street, they look at it and say, oh, this may fit on our property. And so it might be a partnership as well too, that potentially we can help the city out, sort of push the idea that housing stock is needed with the company that is in Pleasant Hill building some of this housing stock, and at the same time, get a little bit of revenue out of it, so that we can go ahead and paint the side. So when we put that all together, it didn't make, it didn't fall out of the realm of possibilities, saying, well, maybe, so let's talk about it a little bit more. And so that's why I wanted to bring it to the full board, was that I think it was intriguing enough, and it had enough components of, this is a Pleasant Hill thing. You know, we can work with the city, we can work with the Pleasant Hill company. It's going to be on our property. And so it's going to be temporary at most. It's not permanent structure. We're trying to make it, put it there for a while and then you have to take it away. Let's talk about it. You know, it might be an opportunity to get some revenue. So that's where the land facilities came from.
I have so many more questions.
I don't know, just going out there. That's where it came. Then it opens up like, oh, well, then it's not out of the, left field, right?
No.
Like, well, and then you can create something that's a little bit more, but we get your point, like,
I understand.
anything commercial, that's how we initially got it. Oh, I don't know, we're a partner. But if you start thinking about it, maybe it might be something we can work out. Anyways, that was what we landed on. And you did get so we did ask, they were offering $1,000 a month.
Yeah.
Was it
Yeah.
like-
It was 1,000. We pushed them back to
It's 2,500.
2,500 is where we're at. So yeah, 2,500. That's the max that they'll go. That was
I think
2,500.
that's why
So,
we,
yeah.
we
Yeah.
sort of thought that one was
Yeah.
take advantage of us.
Yeah.
It's like, they're putting this two, right?
Yeah,
I guess
two.
two buildings onto, two ADUs onto this site, off to the far west side, right?
Taylor side.
Yeah,
Yeah, Taylor side. Yeah. So, those are just our thoughts from the land. Yeah.
Yeah, I had mixed feelings about it, but I kind of looked at it, and when I saw the pictures of them, I thought, well, I know when the tree lot is there, they have some kind of a trailer back there, a shed that they bring in
Yeah.
for that. These, I would imagine there's going to be hours, but these are gonna be available. I guess those are the kinds of, I have questions about how are they going?
By
to-
appointment only.
Yeah, by appointment only.
Mhm.
Somebody's gonna be there.
Yeah, by appointment.
By
So
appointment.
people have to call them and make an appointment and then
Right,
they'll come.
right.
So
Uh,
they're not going to staff them. They're not going to be open certain hours. It'll be by appointment only.
Are they just leaving them, or is there any fencing?
No,
So
they'll just,
they'll
there's no
just be
fencing.
there?
Yeah.
No fencing?
No.
Okay.
And they're not hooking up to anything. So there's no electricity or
Right,
anything. So.
And no really security, so right,
Yeah.
if somebody broke their window, it's their
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah. And they would also need to provide us with insurance and like there's all of those things.
It's the amount of thoughts like turn. We don't mind.
Yeah, well, I'll turn to ADU. I honestly do not believe the park district should be using its parkland to have somebody advertise. It's a slippery slope. It may be everything you say, which is, it's a local resident, it's his business. It promotes backyard housing, I just don't think that's the role of the park district. As far as the public services room and the Seroptimus room, those are all named because of very significant contributions to a campaign that we had to furnish those facilities. And it wasn't because we're advertising them, but because they contributed money to them, to us in that regard. So I just have real reservations about this. And now that I hear that people will actually be going to them to see that it's not just like props on the corner, I'm even more uncomfortable with this idea.
Yeah, is this the avenue at which we're now like?
No, it can't, I mean, it came, my rental staff is fantastic. They'll rent just about anything. So, so this came to them they came to me. I said, okay, it kind of sort of maybe sounds intriguing. I mean, we do rent the like the schoolhouse, parking lot to, for construction. We're now just renting it to East Bay Mud for $1,500 a month. And so, so we have done that. So they're like, well, they thought that this was similar. I'm like, well, it's not quite the same. I have similar reservations, which is why I, said, well, let's bring it to the board to see, maybe I'm overreacting because, there are a lot of, as we're trying to find money to do capital projects, it is a space that we could rent. We do rent other things to companies, use of our rooms and those sort of things, but it is a different realm into the advertising. Like we don't sell advertising in our pool. We don't sell advertising elsewhere. But yeah, it's something that we didn't go looking for. It came to us, and we thought we should at least look at it in fair shake. So
Yeah, I won't belabor my time. I think Secretary Manon, brings up. I also just adding a couple other ones. I mean, one, just not knowing what the whole package of advertising and what that looks like, and mentioning that spot is like a main thoroughfare, which I'm guessing is why they would like to be placed there, but also the impact that could have again on people driving by and seeing ADUs going up in the Winslow Center parking lot, and the potential. What do people think about that? I pair this with the next item that we're going to have on, is the district that supportive of housing, and if that that continues on to my next item, but so yeah, I would agree with Secretary Donato on that. I very much I don't want to. I think any and all things that have an opportunity to raise funds, I appreciate them coming forward. I'm just not supportive of this one.
Yeah,
No, I'm not, yeah, I don't think at this point in time, especially because the timing for this is they want us to do something in less than a month, right? They want to put two of them in sometime in May. I do think that there would be a lot of looky-loos at the ADUs, and maybe they'd see the Winslow Center and say, well, what are you guys doing? But I think it could derail what we want people to think about. We don't want them to think about ADUs, even though they're only there for a short period of time. We want them to think about the Winslow Center and how we can improve it and how we can get funds to a big project, which isn't going to be renting the space so that two ADUs could be there. And I am a little concerned about the security aspect of it. During the day, but it's during the evening hours. I just think that potential folks that want to just go poke around and look around and who knows, I'm a little concerned about that aspect of it.
yeah.
I wanted to revisit the painting proposal. My grandson was going to school there, so I've been, excuse me, I pick him up. The building isn't bad shape. It really is. You saw it yourself. I don't know if the rest of you have been out there lately. It's not a matter of paint. The wood is deteriorating. The wood is splitting, cracking. Paint is bubbling off of it. It's peeling off. It's rotting at the bottom of the post. So I think we should all recognize that if we do paint it, it's for the appearance from the street. It's not going to really improve things a whole lot for the families that are bringing their children into this area. Because its condition is just not, well, I'm surprised you can find a painter that's even willing to paint over the condition of the wood that's out there. So I think if we do paint it, it's more for advertising that we're taking good care of our property from from the street rather than really satisfying, the preschool teachers. I sympathize deeply with them. I sympathize deeply with the people who live in the area and have to drive by all the time because it is worse and worse and worse. But if we paint it, that's all we're doing is we're putting lipstick on it. You convinced me that maybe we should do it, but I just think we should be realistic about what we're really getting for $25,000.
Yeah, I didn't think we're gonna, it was gonna be like a total rehab job. That was out of the picture, right, for $25,000.
We'd have to come and re-sign and repost.
Yeah.
Maybe even re-foundation of it.
But whether the paint, gives a little extra protection for another year, who knows? It will look better on the street. Yeah. Maybe it'll look a teeny bit better from up close, but you're right, it was, things are just pulling away and feeling. But it would be a little bit better. I think, where kids learn and the environment that they learn is really important. And even if it's a little bit better, I think it's important to create an atmosphere that, supports their learning, their growth, their development. That's an important component, even if it's lipstick on the side of the building. So I'm actually supportive of that. The reason I was open to the idea of it is that it's $25,000 out of our budget, and just hearing from today, we're probably going to be in the black, but it's going to be much closer than in previous years, right? And so every little bit's going to have to count, and so that's why I was at least open to the idea of thinking about new revenue sources, even though I think my initial gut feeling with what everybody is feeling. I think I'm still open to the idea of at least considering the ADU in some form or another. I'm not completely shutting it down. I think that there might be a path where we could address some of the concerns and still be able to get some of the revenue so we could actually do that. Because I worry that if we put the lipstick on for $25,000 out of our budget, and we're going to be really close, even closer to that break-even point.
Isn't the proposal to put it in the CIP?
Yeah, it would be in the CIP, not coming out of operating, it'd come out of the CIP for next year.
But we've committed to most of the stuff.
For this year, yeah, we haven't committed to next year's CIP yet, but yeah.
A lot of commitments.
I'm the last one you have to tell that to.
Yeah, and so again, I was at least willing to consider it if there's some way. So if staff came back and said, these are a page of concerns, if we can't meet those concerns, then it's off the table. But if you say this is a list of concerns, the staff comes back, we can address those concerns. I'm at least willing to figure it out. Because I actually don't think that there's any difference. Because we're basically doing what we're picking and choosing the business we want to do business with. City has today off the grid, and they had 8 or 9 trucks out there advertising the business. They had their bands, they come out there advertising the business. They have their booths advertising the business. Each of our events has businesses advertising. Everybody donates not for the love of the thing, they donate because they want their business in front of it. Laura Wilker sponsors every single one of our things, not because she feels good about it, because her name gets out every single night. It's advertising for her. So I don't see that any different in any way. This company is also a Pleasant Hill company, a Pleasant Hill resident, do the same thing. But if there's concerns about how the advertising is done, then I would at least give staff the opportunity to address them. And if they can think of a way to address the concerns, then I think it's fair to at least consider it.
Well, I think to that point, I don't think it's apples to apples. You're talking about, I mean, if they want to come just like, like local real estate agents and sponsor, the Halloween trail or the, extravaganza, or even naming rights to a building and, put their name and have a booth, I 100% support. When you talk about putting ADUs in a parking lot on the side, I think that now we're going from oranges to apples. And, it's a different level of advertising, in my opinion.
I'm already all voted. So I don't know if this is a voting item.
It was just direction to staff. So, so yeah, I mean, we would come back, but it sounds like that isn't something, that we're doing at this point in time. But, maybe we'll revisit it next year. But we're running out of time anyways for them to mobilize and put it out there. So. Well, we'll consider the painting as we move forward.
Yes.
Question, Lance, you can probably answer this. Remind me again, when would you want to paint Winslow Center? And would it just be basically somebody out there with a spray painting the whole thing? X amount of coats? Prepping it. Yeah.
Sooner rather than later.
Yeah. So you would want to do it during summer?
Summer months, right?
Right.
I think we'll be ready, so.
Right.
So how much stripping do you think we'll have to? Without stripping the structure.
It's gonna be I don't know.
Yeah. Something like that, you have to be careful because the more you start to poke at it, it's whether you glue it together with the paint.
Sand it too hard.
Yeah, don't sand it too hard.
So are we saying then that money would be in the CIP for?
Well, I mean, the new CIP starts in July, so, but yeah, so we'll do it as part of this budget process, so.
Okay. Any other topics about, so this is an open item.
Yeah.
Topics about the Winslow Center that anybody wishes to bring up? Yes.
Yeah, Michelle, from time to time, we have discussed the acre behind the creek.
Uh-huh.
I think it would be wise to pull out that lease. I don't want to get $1 a year or something, I'm silly like that. But to begin to understand what it takes to take that property back. If within the next 5 years, we have the means to develop the Winslow Center, then that would certainly be a part of it.
It would, that particular property would also require us to create an access to it, because we don't have any access to it, so, but yeah,
Bridge over the creek or
yeah,
something
yeah,
like
something
that
like
is
that.
part of all of this.
yes.
But also, I think it would be good to know whether there's any environmental contamination up there that the lessee would be responsible for, and how long that would take. I'm not suggesting there is any, but if there is.
Yeah, I haven't seen that lease in a while, so we'll pull that up.
It's just a big picture.
Any other topics about the Winslow Center? Yes.
I just want to thank staff for the update on the glue lamps and the structural. That's,
At least 2 more years
yeah,
potentially,
that's,
so.
that answered a lot of the questions in that, for that piece of it. And I'm glad that we keep on top of that to make sure it's all okay.
Go ahead and close agenda item 6.2 and move to agenda item 6.3. Operation Roman to send a letter to Senator Timothy Grayson opposing Senate Bill 315, which would limit specifically to collect Quimby Act funds for future park developments and improvements.
Right. Yes. So, the California Association of Rec and Park Districts tracks legislation for that affects rec and park districts throughout the state. Senate Bill 315 is one of those bills that has been requested that we consider taking an opposition position on. I have looked at the bill, and while we're looking at needs of parkland to serve current residents as well as new residents, especially in the north side of our district. This bill is problematic in a couple of ways. One, It doesn't offer some definitions about infill or parks or things that would provide some understanding about how it would impact. It also removes the requirement of new development to pay or provide land specifically or choose to pay in lieu for the Quimby Act for if their development is within a half mile of a current park. And so to kind of give the board an understanding, I went through the Pleasant Hill housing element. There are 11 sites that would be considered infill just by a general definition of infill, since infill isn't included as a definition in this bill or proposed bill. Out of those 11 sites, only one is not within a half mile of a park, and 8 out of 11 of those are within a half mile of Chilpancingo Park. We all know that Chilpancingo Park is a 2-acre park with no amenities, so there is no opportunity if this particular bill gets passed in this current form for the district to get any funds to add a playground or a restroom or any of the things that we would need to serve current as well as new residents. And so, the Quimby Act is specific to providing land. Originally, it's in the Subdivision Map Act. The development needs to provide land for parks. That was how subdivisions were created. And when they were created, to make sure that there was enough parkland. There was a provision that was also included so that the developer and the communities could decide if there wasn't land, they could then provide fee in lieu, which in our community is pretty much what we have because of our infill development. We're not building large subdivisions anymore. So that is what we have. For example, the Mayhew project, which is on the other side of 680 behind Best Buy, that project was 30 homes. It was the Quimby Act in lieu fee we got was about $10,000 per home. Or was $10,000 per home. So that $300,000 helped us buy the playground at Pleasant Oaks Park, right? That project is within a half mile of Pleasant Oaks Park. If this particular bill was in existence at that point in time, we would not have gotten that money. At that point in time, wouldn't have had those funds to improve that park, specifically for those residents and the residents around. So, while we're very in favor of development, we obviously want to have homes. We want people to live here. We want higher density homes. We also want to make sure that the one stream of revenue that the district has for building new parks and or improving existing parks to make sure that we have the capacity to take those neighbors in and provide services, that doesn't get taken away from us. So it is my recommendation and request that the board approve me sending an opposition letter in regards to this. We did meet, I was involved, I did meet with Senator Grayson's office and talked to his staff member about some of these concerns, definition of infill, the park size, all those sort of things. And so they chose not to take any amendments or look at that. So at this point in time, we have an opposed position for CARPD, and I'm recommending that we take that as well. And so that is my request this evening.
Thank you. Thank you for the report. Questions? Yes.
Do we have any staff reports, legislative staff reports, or legislative analysis or anything like that?
You have what I provided you. This is going to committee, and it's fast and furious. So
That would be, I think, very helpful to know a little bit more about what's behind all this. From the author's office, from Grayson's office, it's,
we all can get behind. It's about affordability and trying to reduce the costs. Examples that I've been using for exorbitant fees have come out of the Silicon Valley and the city of Sunnyvale, city of Cupertino, where land values are very expensive. The Quimby Act is very specific in that the fees are calculated on fair market value of land because it's supposed to be able to purchase land. So in places like Silicon Valley, the fees per door, because the land value is very expensive. And so, so those fees are much more expensive than say here, where I mentioned it was $10,000, per unit at the Mayhew site. We also, when we did the project with the city and the county, we did negotiate down our fees with the county in that development, and that's about $10,000 a door as well. So there is room for negotiation at a local level, and so my concern is that most of the infill development, we would get no fees whatsoever, and so that is my concern based on how it's written as today.
So the information we're receiving doesn't really tell us whether we should just flat out oppose or oppose it amended. Maybe work with the author to, the public policy behind what you've just described is strong. But so is public policy behind parks. But I'm concerned that I know which policy at this particular juncture might prevail. Those are just comments. I'm speaking out loud, I guess. I'm concerned that it may be better to request amendments.
Well, we don't have any specific amendments at this time that would make it palatable.
This is moving fast.
Yeah,
So,
yeah, that would make it.
opportunity to propose them maybe.
Yeah, I had that question, and you indicated that, when you met with Senator Grayson's office, that they were unwilling at this point to accept any amendments. But that's not what, are there amendments that CARPD would be amenable to?
I mean, it is, at this point, no, because we got a strong no from the author's office. They weren't going to accept any. So CRPD is like, well, why do we try, why are we going to try to get amendments that they're not willing to even consider? And so, because we even asked about a definition for infill, and they said, no, we're going to leave it as it is. And so, well, what does infill mean? Is it go into commercial? Is it taking, one, single family, couple single family homes to 10? So at this point in time, CRPD is just opposed. This affects, not only, everyone up and down the state in different ways, right? So, we have some of those developing communities in the Central Valley, if one subdivision is built with a park and then across the street, there's another subdivision, they're very, very opposed to messing with the Quimby Act at all. Quimby Act is fairly sacred because it's the one way we can get parkland. It's the one way, when it was developed in the 60s to get parkland as we developed communities. And so, we have this is, kind of targeting the infill development, but it also, because of, the proximity issue, is also going to affect those in developing areas as well. So,
I do have comments on that I'll hold off on that, but I do the other couple, if I can.
Yeah.
Since it's done, well, let me stick with that one for a second. The infill, A lot of times when an infill, like, I guess it was more of an editorial. How do I form this thing? When was the last, do we know the last time the Pleasant Hill Recreation Park District received a Quimby land dedication? If we have ever?
I don't know when we received the land dedication. I only know of the of in lieu fees, and so I don't know I don't know when the park was or when the district was developed. If we got any like Roger Smith or any of those at that point in time, but as long as I've been here, and at least the last 15 years, they've all been in lieu fees.
I'm going to leave the witness here a little bit of the question too. Is that in an infill, what maybe we all probably have different definitions of infill, but an infill project that maybe went in a current neighborhood, in that situation, when a 30-unit project or something, does the city require, I know oftentimes, I haven't followed this within our own city, they require like a pocket park or some amenity that would be utilized in addition to?
Not in addition to, so if they were able to provide recreation on their own project for their own residents, then they wouldn't have to pay Quimby equity. We have to look at that, and it has to be adequate. It can't just be, a small, sandbox or, something like that. It needs to be adequate for the number of people who are going in, into that project.
Which I guess was going to be my next question. In a typical development that is going in the city of Pleasant Hill, whether it's a 200-unit apartment project or something like that, it would appear that there wouldn't be probably an adequate site, which is to dedicate his land, whether it be on that site, which would probably suck up most of the land that was utilized for housing. So that's, I'm guessing, why a lot of times we get the in lieu fee, right? Yes. The next question: Quimby requires, it's 3 acres of parkland per 1,000 residents.
Up to
Up to 5, but I don't think
we're not. We're at 3.
And we currently provide, just maybe a clarification point, for 40,000 residents, we have over 270 acres of parkland that we own.
Including open space. Yeah, that includes open space. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So
yeah,
that would be well in excess of.
Yeah, but usually we look at developed park space, not open space. That's kind of what has been the industry standard. And the California State Parks has developed a tool where they look at within a half mile of a development or a park, what the how many acres are within that, because the goal is to have everyone within a walkable park. 10 minutes walk is kind of what they want to see.
Super easy in a new developed city, but
yeah, it would be. It would be.
Last question. Since this affects everybody, have other cities that don't have any neighboring cities taken?
The California League of Cities is taking an opposition. I found out today. And so, but I don't know of any specific cities. I've been focused on Rec and Park District. So, but I do know that we received a CC on an opposition letter from the League of California Cities.
Last question. So it sounds like these are a small percentage of the actual value of it.
The Quimby Act fees,
Yeah.
They are. Yeah. I mean, they aren't in some of the. I mean, so like for example, they use Sunnyvale as an example. They're at 5 acres per 1,000, and then like Cupertino is at like 10 for some reason, which they're a charter city, so they're in some other things. So their fees are, and rightfully so. This is an issue. Their fees that are $100,000 a door, like that is exorbitant. Ours are not at that level, and neither are ones in the Central Valley or other places. And part of that is the value of the land, but.
I could see amendments in that regard. Because if you read between the lines, I think a lot of us are for housing, and they're trying to figure out ways to reduce the cost, and going after the government fees is probably just a small portion of the actual market value. that's driving a lot of these costs. So that's just probably the wrong way to do it, but I see where they're coming from in terms of this. But an amendment to sort of take into account this sort of those government entities that are not charging exorbitant prices or reasonable prices to provide an amenity to the community, I think would have been a fine one. Not. And so that's really the only thing we can do is just oppose it at this point.
Well, that's the request of CARPD, yes, is that we send an opposed letter. I don't have any specific amendments, other than, you know,
That would be my.
my amendment was, you know, was taking out the half mile, like, no, exempt someone within a half mile, you know, or a park, because, you know, like I said, Chilpancingo Park is, you know, that's where a number of these, or at least are infill. And, you know, and to Director Glover, you know, a number of these infill sites are, you know, going into commercial areas that weren't previously charged to Quimby Act, you know, any land dedication or any of that. So, you know, they're brand new in that. So it's not like we're looking at double charging them. So
I'm in support of sending the letter. At this point, because if their staff is not willing to accept any amendments, to me, the letters go in, indicating, you know, opposing this particular Senate bill, which hopefully, if there are any amendments that could be made, it could spur that process. I didn't read all the fine print, but, you know, there probably is something in here, but until they want to talk about that, to me, the position of opposing it is appropriate at this time, because, and especially if they're trying to push it through without due consideration of other things, which it doesn't appear that they are considering.
well, part of that is just the legislative calendar
Yeah,
and the deadlines that they're under.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, you know, and it's going to the local government committee first because they deal with fees.
Yeah.
And then it has to go to a number of different it'll go to housing and a couple of other committees before it is finalized.
Has it been to those policy committees already?
No, local government is the first.
Okay, this says it's in Senate.
It's the Senate Local Government Committee.
We got any questions?
Yeah. No, actually, any public comments on?
There are no public comments, no.
All right, let's jump in the comments.
Well, it's the politics of it. I think we usually just want to oppose something every day. But I also think that we need to know who's on these various committees, especially who's on the House, or to the Assembly of it. And, you know, they may have questions about it, given the long list of opposers to it, but would appreciate having some amendments to propose. So I'm almost thinking that, you know, while I can't see us not agreeing to send this letter, because I haven't heard any good reasons not to send it, I just don't think that it's the right way to go at this. And so I would leave it to you, Michelle, to communicate to the advocates for CARPD that, you know, we think that they maybe develop some amendments along the lines of what you found compromisable in your own discussions with the city, or your understanding of, you know, to Chair Tran's point about whether there's a way to carve some exceptions into the Quimby Act that would make it less offensive to developers in Silicon Valley. I don't know what it is, but it's the process of letting them know we're in support of that. I'm worried that not having some amendments to propose that could moderate the effect of this would not be smart. Those are my thoughts.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, I've got, like, setting aside my day job, I've got just significant numbers of, I am working to set aside. I'm challenged with the just straight opposed position. And I've, in all my years of working in legislative affairs, I've never written a straight opposed letter. It's always been opposed unless amended, and there's been amendments offered. To me, it's very similar to an opposed position because there may not be accepted amendments. I'm challenged with the fact that I haven't seen any. What would be an amenable support position? And I'll tell you why I'm challenged with it. Typically, if it was, CRPD, like League of Cities, kind of getting their folks in, getting letters, requesting letters or signing on to a letter, this is different too. Typically, I've been asked in different avenues to sign on to a letter. This is not that, and I believe the reason that is the case is we are one of the only entities within the author's jurisdiction that is a part of CARPD. And so we're being positioned as this, you drop the hammer letter, and I'm challenged with that from a number of perspectives. One, because I think Senator Grayson, Assemblymember Grayson, Councilmember Grayson has been a huge supporter of parks, and us, and I hope that would continue. And I don't know if there were things that we would, be looking to work with the senator and his office in the future. And I, be concerned with, just being seen as lining up with, like our state association to write this letter. I'm also concerned that we don't know if other cities and parks departments have written a similar letter, if they're being requested by the league to write similar letters, or do they not share the concern that we do, even though they probably charge larger fees. And then lastly, so in that vein as well, and I think you alluded to this a little bit, is like understanding the general rationale as to why a bill like this has come forward. And that's why I think an opposed unless amended position is a softer landing point and shows concern for a dual, success of parks and housing. That would be something I would be much more amenable to me. But that being said, I struggle with the just straight oppose unless amended on a bill that at least the advocates are touting this as a transparency issue. I would be much more amenable to supporting this if CARPD or whoever is putting this forward, because our letter mirrors their letter. Would provide if there were amendments that they would be amenable to, or if this is just a sacred cow that they will just oppose. Any mention of Quimby. I mean, this bill went into. Granted, on February 11th. Granted, I don't know when it was amended.
It was just a spot bill. It was amended on March 17th. That's when we, it was a spot bill with no information until the March 17th. So that was when it was amended.
Yeah.
I hear the softening part of it that Director Glover has brought up. I guess it bothers me that they weren't willing to have a more meaningful discussion with you. That does bother me. And are there other? So it was the main staffers for Senator.
It was the staffer who's responsible for this policy bill, and the supporters, Cal Yimby and Cal Spar. So they were all on the call, And yes, I was there because I was concerned, and I am, we are in Senator Grayson's district, and I was not happy that my concerns as a park district in his district were not even considered. And so, and I have not only in that meeting, but in follow-up conversations have attempted to engage with them. And there hasn't been any recognition. So, so that is, I had gone into that conversation hoping that, the effect of someone in his district, that the staff would recognize that and be willing and open, but
But have there been any amendments provided, proposed amendments?
I mean, not specific wording, but it was, but I did offer a couple of options, and they were like, well, we'll consider that. And then they came back and said, no, we don't want that. And so,
And those were
Yeah.
eliminating the half acre?
yeah, eliminating the half acre,
Or the half mile.
half mile. Yeah. I'm actually okay with the 25%. Like that actually is with our formula like that. I'm like, that seems reasonable, and that will keep some of those, cities and or districts that might be looking at that more than 3 acres. Like the 25% seems reasonable. And it's the half acre, or the half mile radius that is of concern.
That's a lot of big comments. I think I sharing your concern that, actually both of your concerns, we that was the first thing I actually thought, because I'm sure we're in the district. And so I just wanted to be sure, so before I came in here, I just figured that and just did that. Because I remember being assemblyman as well, and then of course the Congress City Council. Fact that we haven't been reached out to in some form, so that I actually had a question, because sometimes these letters not come from the general manager, sometimes from the actual governing board as well too, whether that was on the table for any kind of consideration. Because I am concerned that something that directly affects us in our operations and potential deliverance of services, there hasn't been more not communication, negotiation, discussion, outreach, whatever it may be, either to yourself or even to us as the governing board as well. And so, although I hear you, I would also ask the question and say, well, we want to be collaborative and a partner, but wouldn't this concern us that we weren't being consulted in some way, right? And I'm also concerned that there appears to be, we can throw out a whole bunch of it, right? Sit here, just 5 of us in the room, we already thought of probably a few, and we could say, okay, well, can we make it more palatable in some way? And I am concerned that not at least potentially considering some of those, so I am concerned about that. If we're sort of pushed in this corner, I'm actually in favor of a letter of some sort. I'm not in the world of politics, so me understanding a full oppose or oppose with amendments is probably over my head, because that's not my world. But I'm in favor of something being said, because it does affect what we do, right? And so I'm not sure where we're going to land. It sounds like there might be a couple of different thoughts in and around that. When I first came in here, I actually have generated even a stronger letter. Michelle, not strong enough. You don't have to use the word severely limit the ability of local agencies, so strongly opposed in it, Bill 315, right? I wrote it, SB ignores the multifaceted role of parks in supporting both everyday quality of life and emergency preparedness. Because in my world, that kind of strong language matters. And so if you want to express your emotion or express your stance, you have to do that. But I get there's sort of a politics around that. So I'm in favor of sending something. Are you saying that only through you though?
No, I mean, it would, the general manager sends it on, behalf of the board. But if the board would like to send it, we could, you could certainly have Chair Tran, sign the letter. But as a staff member, I can do that on your behalf as well, to provide some insulation politically as well. So, but that is.
I'm just asking.
Yeah. So that is where, and, this is, I think, it, and I don't know all of the politics either. This is going to local government committee because it has to deal with fees, always goes there first. It most likely, based on that, it will most likely pass through local government. And then I think people will might get more serious about amendments and things like that. It is very difficult because the Quimby Act is very quintessential in developing parks in California, legislation from the 60s that, a lot of people up and down the state don't want to see touched at all. So trying to find amendments that is going to be, you're going to be approved by a large swath is going to be a difficult task. And so, I think, I think that, taking the initial opposed position as and we are working on amendments that might work, but the timing that we have is kind of really short. So.
Well, the hearing's set
Yeah.
for 23rd.
Set for 23rd.
A week in advance?
Yeah. We need to get the opposed letter. We need to get all letters to the committee by the 17th of April. So.
So I think we dropped it up with potential amendments by then.
That for CRPD is going. I mean, if the district would like to, if you would like to, have me, do oppose unless amended, and float the idea that I have, I can do that. But at this point in time, I'm recommending we go straight oppose, and then I'm pretty sure it's going to pass the local government committee.
So the problem is that it's a statewide organization. Part of that has asked us to do this. And if we start proposing amendments, they're not necessarily going to be favorable to everybody that is a member of this organization. So we'd be doing it on our own.
Right. Yeah, we would be. Right now, I'm bringing it to you. If I didn't feel that this was going to hamper our future opportunities to, to provide parks for future residents in new developments, I wouldn't be bringing this to you. I wouldn't be entertaining it. But I am concerned after doing a deep dive into the housing element and, kind of how that will affect us.
Yeah.
I'm troubled by you saying it's going to sail through local government.
I don't know if it's going to sail through, but they have been, and rightfully so. Everyone's trying to deal with the policy issue of providing more housing, and
They've got to recognize this is at the expense of parks as opposed to other ways that they can support housing.
Yeah.
So I have to think they have some concerns.
I'm hoping. We're hoping.
That's my question. I would offer my
That's why who sits on the committee. I don't know.
My question is that, and this is why I asked, what cities have written letters similar to this? Because we are separate in the city of Pleasant.
Right. Yeah.
Has the city of Concord written a letter? Walnut Creek has Pleasant, or
I
Martinez,
I don't.
because to me, this gets into the bigger thing. I mean, we are different in that we, are a separate recreation and park district. I think cities, and this is where it's probably angled, is cities that, whether it's Cupertino, the city of charges $100,000, look at that, a significant fee, and their total fee package is this. They might not care about because but it is the benefit that we provide is that we do care about.
And that's our problem, Dark Glover, is that, the cities can provide an impact fee on top of Quimby. We only get Quimby. Like, that's it. That's all. And so these cities and a number of them, the League of California Cities is coming out against it. So I'm guessing they're putting out a call to their members as well. But the cities have the opportunity to do an impact fee and Quimby Act. So they're double dipping is kind of how that's happening. And so we as Park Rec and Park District, which is why CARPD members are so upset about this, is that the Quimby Act is the only way that we get a fee or land in a lot of the Central Valley for parkland for the residents and for new residents.
So that's why I can see that, like, that's sort of proposed potential ones, because we're, the park rec districts are unique and separate. And so how we approach it, it's going to be separate, different than the approach that and whatever we're trying to read between the lines, so are they going after the big cities with bigger packages of stuff, and whether they even care about this? So,
Presumably they do.
every little bit counts, right?
So what happens if we don't make a decision this evening? You go back to CRPD and share some of the concerns that we've expressed here. So we have the 17th deadline,
Then we would not have we would not put in an opposed letter.
right? So, because
We would be
back
silent.
together again.
Right.
So is there any conditional?
Like a question I have, like, because I get the importance for CRPD and I get the significance of it. But my question would be, is there language in there that can be carved out that carves out special districts? That allow, for that specific reason that we are only allowed to, charge a Quimby fee.
Awesome amendment.
Yeah, I mean, I think I don't want to be the one that I just struggle. I'm all just in general with an oppose unless amended. And I think that we are being used in this situation because we are in Senator Grayson's district and we are the only,
Well, I offered us up, Bobby. So when our own senator is doing something that's going to that is going to negatively affect us, and we bring it to his attention, I think and I'm willing to work. We're willing to work with that, but they aren't willing to work at this point in time.
They being racist.
Yes, correct.
So, but what about CRPD? How do you think they would react if you went back to their advocate and said, my board wishes to oppose unless amended? The amendment we would propose would be to exempt recreational park districts.
I don't know.
That's got to be statewide benefit for all of their members.
I mean, quite possibly, but they're everyone up and down the state's pretty in the CRPD is pretty fired up about this particular attack on Quimby, and so
what we're saying is that we're not comfortable with just sitting for the fences to kill it because I don't have enough information in front of me to know whether I feel like we can.
Actually, Mike, thank you for bringing that up. That would be sort of a way to include all the rec and park districts, right? The carve out for rec and park districts, that's special districts. It would be a nice amendment to that. Because we have unique needs which are different from the city. I can fall in line with that if in some way we can do in the post letter with that kind of very simple, straightforward amendment that benefits anybody within CARP. I think I would get behind that. And we get the short timeline.
Do you think the edits that you made to the letter support that kind of amendment?
No, it's just for me because if you're going to oppose it, just oppose it, right? Just get because the letter when I first read it was, if we're going to oppose this, it didn't sound strong enough. But that was just for me. But if the politics we are behind it is that if we're going to suggest a letter with amendments because we want to make sure we sort of express our support of housing at the same time, also express our displeasure that we're going to be disproportionately affected by what happens in this particular bill, then I can see sort of easing up the language is congruent with an attached amendment.
But but this is where I don't think we weigh in on housing. You know, like, I don't think we, like, I think that's where, you know, based on, even on the previous discussion, it's like, if we're gonna go down that road, then yeah, I would say we support, you know,
But that's what an amendment is, though, right?
But yeah, I don't think we weigh in on, I don't think I would support, I know I wouldn't support us weighing in on housing issues. But I said that more in the context of understanding the weight that is behind something like this and a host of bills that are in support of those very issues. I mean, I think we're talking about parks here, like whether or not this impacts us. And if there are amendments that would make it amenable, I have no problem. I would have no problem supporting this letter, me personally, if there were amendments that were offered as part of this to say, and even if it was outlandish and wouldn't even be accepted by the author. I think it's important point because absent that, it has the appearance that we are just not willing to have a conversation. This is and I hate that this is the way we've always done it. This is the way it should be. And there's no other way we can do it because I think that type of mentality and that expression conveys an unwillingness to be a part of the solution. I think that's my frustration with this is that there's, you know, there aren't amendments in there offered. Whether it's even across the board, you know, I don't know what CRPD's amendments would be.
And I mean, and this is our letter. So if, you know, the board, I mean, my offer up to CRP or to the author was to eliminate the half mile. And so, you know, you know, within a half mile or, you know, only a half mile if the you know, park was more than 5 acres, you know, like, you know, any of those things, you know, and so, and I can amend the letter and say, you know, and change it to an opposed unless amended and offer those amendments to our legislator.
See, I think something like that at least shows a willingness. It could be that they look at it and it's like, you know, no way, but at least we're signaling that Senator Grayson, our senator, we're trying to play ball here. And this is going to affect us as currently written. If it's written in this context and these and a lot of this is, you know, definitions of infill, definitions of, you know, like a host of other things. And I think getting, you know, answer to something that doesn't impact us, the Pleasant Hill Recreation Park District allows us to continue. It may not appease, yeah, CARPD, but I don't know, are all CARPD's members writing letters or is this just?
I mean, a good portion of them are, but you know, but there are some who, you know, either, you know, who this is infill only and they're not. But I mean, this is the most engaged I've seen the CARPD members around legislation with the Quimby Act, just because it's really the only vehicle rec and park districts have for parkland.
So what I hear you saying, Michelle, is that you could modify your letter to include basically the discussion you had with Grayson's office, confirming that you offered that up,
right?
Which they did not accept, and go that route. I mean, you could put that in there pretty easily.
Yeah, I mean, and my biggest concern is, like, you know, is the infill development around a park like Chilpancingo. Infill development around here with this park, you know, I'm like, if you know, if the park is more than 5 acres, you know, and there is an infill development like this one here, this park can handle that. Like, you know, we don't need to have, you know, additional, you know, parkland or in lieu fees, but, you know, but Chilpancingo, which is 2 acres, and we have needs there to serve that population.
Right, but I guess then we're still discussing it. I think that the other side is that when you have a situation like that, you're not going to put new parkland right there. I'm
going to add amenities, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
To an extent,
right?
You know, you can't add. You know, I mean, and that I think this is, you know, the proponents of this are of this would make the comment that you know, a lot of times the resources that are developed out of these certain areas don't go into those certain areas. They
Right.
go in other areas that don't serve the new, but yet serve as an additional fee on, you know, other stuff. So, but yes, I would be supportive of something like that, including at least the conversation, like, hey, you know, even if it was like, we made these suggestions, you said no, and therefore, you know, unless these are there, we oppose. I have no problem with that. But I also, I don't know, like, again, I appreciate the opportunity to have a dialogue about it. I don't want to, if the direction, you know, is to go with the letter as is, I think, you know, board should proceed.
Unless we felt that we change our position after it gets out of the first policy committee or back over to the assembly, which I don't see strategically being smart. I think we should avoid taking the straight oppose.
They could all see the same thing. Okay.
So what would be the process if this needs to go out by next Thursday?
Well, I understand. I will create the letter with oppose unless amended, and I will identify the amendments that at a staff level I feel would make this you know, workable for the district.
It's still in the conversation. It's to show the other committee members that there are things that they might bring up in committee and amend right in committee. To me, it just seems like a far better way to go to get a better result. And maybe it gets killed at some point. Okay, that's great. But that's the best.
Which maybe I'm just being naive and you don't have to include it in there. To Bobby's point. I sort of get the feeling that there's this impetus for outside pressure or whatever it may be because of the housing issues and not addressing the elephant in the room. In that, in some way or another, we're supportive of their driver, their why. Just with the fact that it just makes us, again, in my opinion, it makes it like, oh, you just credit, you guys don't support housing. You know, do what you need to do to run your district. You got a little bit of, you know, you lose a little bit of fees. That's tough luck when we're building more housing. That's more important. And not addressing that in some way, and I sort of feel it sort of doesn't address the why or why they're pushing this through. That's just me. If I'm not a politics kind of guy, so if it's felt that we should stick with our wheelhouse and just about the parks, and I'm fine with that as well too. But I probably change my mind. But if it does, tell me. But having something in there just sort of says, you know, we get it. You know, we want to be partners in that. We get your pressure or whatever is going on. We're not directly opposing it. But we have to work with us as well too. You know, give a little, take a little. We're willing to sort of support you in your move to get more housing, but you know, this will crush us in some way. So I'm throwing it out there. But if the general consensus is not to leave it in there and just leave it as it and just change the letter to what we just said, well, minutes and everything, then that's fine as well too.
I like the language that you wrote that was supportive of the importance of parks.
Yeah, I think we can wrap, you know, if you write it correctly, I think you can wrap the support of parks into the support of housing. That it's, you know, parks are important because it's quality of life, it's emergency preparedness, right? All the components that make housing possible, but you know, we don't have to say we are in support of housing. We can say the parks are an important component of a community. It's just looking at housing as a single focus, you know, misses the community. But anyway, I mean, that's just.
I think the letter does highlight that. I think it does. Like, it actually specifically in the second paragraph talks about the link between new housing and essential recreation spaces, and then it goes on to highlight the importance of parks. And so I think it does, quite frankly. I think the letter, I just think, you know, it'd be nice to say if you
If you did these things, we would be
yeah, we would
supportive.
support it, you know. Yeah.
I will include those,
Thank you, Michelle.
the things that I asked for.
That's fine.
No, it's okay. That was fine.
Yeah.
So. I have a question.
Yes.
So if you make those changes, do we have to look at it again or we just good? Okay.
We're not
I
gonna-
trust, I
Yeah,
trust that.
yeah, no, you gave me direction and I
Yeah,
will
that
implement
you,
that.
Based on what you've already written and based on this discussion, I have no doubt that whatever you come up with is fine.
There's no further comments, then we will go ahead and close this agenda item. So we'll move on to agenda item 7, the reports from committee chairs and opportunities to set meeting dates.
We have meeting dates for budget and finance, 5/7 and 5/28. Derek's not here, but we will set a meeting for land and facilities. And then also personnel at some point. So
Please.
Chair Tran, did we ever have the districts in the something?
not yet.
We didn't.
Yeah, I think we're supposed to. Next one. Yeah.
Well, we're potentially looking at May, but that might be too soon for the city. So, but yeah.
Yeah, we have 2 potential, one early year.
Yeah. But we're, yeah.
I know they're still getting their, some of their views, still getting their feedback.
Yeah.
Fireworks. So we'll come to agenda item number 8, board announcements and requests to staff. Director Goddard.
Thank you.
Director Benson.
The Contra Costa County CSDA dinner was very nice. I didn't see as many people that I thought I might run into from other areas. I thought it was smaller than it was last year, but it was still nice. It was great to see Mark Abanez speak. He was the speaker, and I thought he did a really good job for that kind of a group. Looking forward to Rogers Ranch tomorrow. Try and get there early, get good plant selections.
On Saturday.
Oh, Saturday, yeah, see.
It's already Friday.
It's already Friday. Saturday, that starts at 10. And then the egg hunt on the 19th, I'm hoping to be able to bring my 22-month-old grandson, let him run around.
We'll be in the little area.
Yeah.
Right.
So that'll be fun. That's all I have.
Thank you. Secretary Bob.
I too attended was it the CSDA?
Yeah.
Dinner. Thank you, district. It was a delicious dinner. We had at our table Matt Wren, the director of art, and some of his staff. We had some lovely conversations, including some potential ways to collaborate, art and the district. So it was profitable to get to know them, for them to get to know us too. The next thing I wanted to say is that I've been over to Rogers Ranch and they are doing a tremendous job of really making this look like an awesome site. If you haven't been over, or if you go over Saturday, you'll see what I mean. The area around the house is just stunning. It's just gorgeous. So hats off to the folks that are volunteering to do all that work, and to the extent Tom is helping. Congrats to Tom as well. It does look really wonderful. And the last thing, on Saturday, I attended a memorial for the husband of one of the former presidents of the senior club. And the first thing he wanted to say was a shout out to the Park District for accommodating him and in the memorial. They were going to do it in the cafe at the senior center, but turned out so many people came that Holly and the team really scrambled and got the team center. So the first words out of his mouth were appreciation for the collaboration. Also, I think Holly was instrumental in putting out free flowers in Poets Corner afterwards. The flowers were just made available to people who were attending. You could go and select some and wrap them up in brown paper, wrap in. Off we went. But there were flowers left over. And it appears to me that Marcy Christensen from Senior Center made them available, and Holly advertised it. So hats off to Holly for being so supportive of both that family as well as just the community in general. That's it.
Thank you. Thank you. I also attended the CSDA dinner and did my jazz hand introduction. Hopefully that was okay. Represented the district all right. It's coming. So April, of course, we're trying to find some things and went to the root of April comes from Latin, means to open. And my understanding is because of that phrasing or that word meant sort of opening new opportunities, springtime, blossoming in nature, rejuvenation. And so it's sort of a nice transition time to think about. A couple of different celebrations it's the spirit of that openness. So Arab American Heritage Month is this month. Just wanted to say that and acknowledge that. For our pickleball fans, this month is National Pickleball Month. Just make sure that anybody watching out there, we acknowledge you, pickleball fans, National Pickleball Month. And of course, all the different celebrations, Easter, Passover, so we have a nice celebration with that. Happy Earth Day as well. Thinkers and Thinkers will be an Earth Day theme, right? What I understand. So I'm going to open with that. I will end with a saying from Psychiatry from Viktor Frankl, just because given all the different things happening in April. So his famous quote is, "Between stimulus and response, there's a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. And in our response lies our growth and our freedom." So I will end with that at 9 p.m. Meeting is adjourned.